A couple of months ago, we did a segment on the film Jaws, which then was about to open. Now, since that time, Jaws has begun to absolutely pulverize all the existing records for making money. I told you earlier that it had already gone over $100 million in gross sales in just 59 days, and that is incredible. Now, one of the major reasons for the success of the film, aside, of course, from the diabolical great white shark, is the man who plays the oceanographic expert determined to outsmart it. Richard Dreyfuss, whose performance Time magazine described briefly as perfect. Our unique star, Richard Dreyfuss. You've got away with the audiences.
Ah, shucks.
How you feeling?
Nervous.
Nervous?
Nervous.
What are you nervous about?
Facing people like this.
Ah, but you make movies all the time, though. What's the difference?
You face a crew, and they're usually going, and when you do it in the theater, the first night is always a little nervous, and then you relax, and this is like a first night that doesn't have a second night.
That's right. That's right. Don't blow it, Richard.
Well, just stay here for tomorrow. Then you and I will come back without the cameras, and I'll be really good.
When Jaws was first finished, and it hadn't been released yet, there was a lot written about the fact that you didn't like the production very much, and that, well, you know, you didn't think much of the picture either. What do you think now? Are you sorry you got into it, or have you changed your opinion?
Well, what I did exactly, in my opinion, was I dumped on the production. I was very critical of the construction of the film, and I was very critical of my taking it, and I was very down on myself for taking the part. The fact of the matter is that it's a terrific film, and I'm really good in it. And what that proves to me is that I am the last judge of my own work.
Now that it's gone over the $100 million mark, I mean, there has to be a sequel. What do you think the logical progression is?
The logical progression is that I turn traitor and go with the sharks. I think that's the logical progression. They hire me to stop this 80-foot great white, and I decide to take the money and run. I don't know. There is a sequel, I heard. A friend of mine called me the other day, and he said, this is the truth. He said, I'm selling a sequel to Jaws. And I said, what is it? He said, it's called Teeth. And it's the story of a tiger raised by a Hollywood movie star who escapes and eats an entire picnic in Burbank. So I figured, where else is it better to eat people than in Burbank? So what the hell? So he's actually trying to sell this piece of something.
I heard that someone's got one started called Croc, about an alligator that goes wild in Florida.
What the hell?
People are afraid of the water now, lots of them anyway. Are you?
Me too, yeah. Oh yeah, honest to God. I would no more go wading than I would go building the Brooklyn Bridge. I did about, well, I got involved with the film about 3 weeks before, 2 weeks or a week or something before principal photography started, and I started reading up on sharks like crazy. And one day, about 3 weeks into production, I'd read all the books, and I talked to this guy from Woods Hole, and I talked to Peter Benchley, and we were being motored out to our location shoot, which was off the island of Chappaquiddick. And I had my hand trailing in the water, and I just went, whoom! Because all of a sudden, all the statistics hit me in the face, and I won't. No, I won't. And I'll even interfere with little children who try to go in.
Stop.
Of course, I'll interfere with little children when
The sexual fantasies is later in the program.
Sorry. I'll control myself until...
In the three major films that you've done, in Graffiti you played Kurt Henderson, who was kind of a all-American, nice guy, ordinary kid, kind of cynical, but only no more so than most kids his age. In Duddy, Kravitz, you play just a completely different role, obviously, you know, a guy who's really on his way to the top at all costs. And then in Jaws, you play the oceanographer who is, you know, a nice guy, professional, highly competent, sense of humor. Which one of those three roles is most closely you?
All of them. No, I'm serious. The part of Kurt was if it was not me in high school, then it was the closest thing to my fantasy of myself. The part of Duddy was the greatest learning experience, I think the greatest failure I've had publicly, but the greatest learning experience in the sense that it taught me that acting, which is, as an art form, is, its responsibility is to tell the truth. As a character, as Duddy Kravitz, I was responsible for being insensitive, manipulative, cruel, uncaring, tender, joyful, a number of things that you don't want to willingly expose to an audience. And when I was in that film, I realized that I had to do that. I had to touch all of those parts that we all have within us. I had to find them all and tell the truth about it. Now, I think I failed in that, but what it did later on, and hopefully for my future work, it taught me what my goal really was. And
what do you say you failed in it, Richard? I mean, it got rave reviews by and large. I mean, at least your partner did.
Well, I don't want to... I love the fact that I got rave reviews. The fact is that, in my opinion, the character held me up as opposed to my holding up the character.
Don't you know that actors aren't supposed to talk about their failings? I mean, here you are, you come up front and you talk about your own insecurities and stuff. That's usually not done, you know.
Well, right. As an actor, I don't know what the rules are. I know that one thing is that there are rules in the whole world that don't exist.
How so?
Rules are just garbage. Rules are made to be broken. Rules are things that people follow because someone else said this is the way to do it, and there's no reason for it. I know that I would be lying to you if I told you, oh yeah, Duddy Kravitz, well, that was very far out, man. I was dynamite in that movie. Well, the fact is that I don't like myself, and so what can I say?
Well, other people do. Let's talk some more with Richard right after these commercial announcements. We'll be back. Your outspokenness in terms of your career in the movies has also obviously flipped over into your everyday life, you know, your life in the off-season. And I know that during the Vietnamese War, you applied for and were granted conscientious objector status. You know, you got a CO status and you didn't go into the Army. How did you get the CO status, number one, and why were you seeking it?
Well, how I got it was very simple. I think that my draft board... I think the reason is that my draft board needed a conscientious objector on their books, and because my last name began with D, I was probably the first one into the office that year.
Totally random, totally
I think it was
haphazard.
totally random because they didn't ask me any questions, and I know what friends of mine and other people went through to get it and lost it. And I know people who were much more highly qualified to achieve that status than I was, who were denied it and went to jail.
Did you have a big scene also when you went for your physical, you know, the physical examination?
Oh yeah. I had just applied. Do you people remember all this stuff? I mean, this was Sick City. I mean, everything in the 60s revolved around these events. I went for my draft board physical. I had already applied as the CO. I was waiting for my time. And when you go for your physical, you first fill out this form. You know, have you ever taken drugs, and have you ever... You lie throughout this. Have you ever taken drugs? Have you ever had psychiatric treatment? Are you a communist? Are you a socialist? What are you? What are you anyway, buddy? And so I walked into this room. I'd already applied as CO, and I knew I was going to just tell all the truth. I was going to check all the truth boxes. Boom, boom, boom. And I took the thing from the sergeant. I looked, and I see this guy I know from Valley State, a guy I had in history class. And I said, hey, how you doing? And he goes, So, what is it? What is it? So I filled out my form, and he sidles up to me a little later on. He goes, don't talk to me, I'm paranoid. I went, right. And a little while later, they handed him the bottle, and he peed everyone's leg. And he got out, you know. I had made the mistake of saying, yes, I had psychiatric treatment and then crossing it out. I had a very short time with psychiatric treatment. And the psychiatrist, as soon as they saw that, they went into the room. 45 minutes with the psychiatrist saying, you trying to pull some kind of a mind thing on us? What are you? You're trying to say yes and then no and then think you're a little schizo, huh? I said, no, I'm not. I'm a CO and, you know, you can... I was wearing shorts all this time. There's nothing more uncomfortable to me than just wearing shorts, you know? That's why the shirt is out.
I've read someplace that you are thinking of a career in politics when your career in show business is over, or, you know, maybe you'll abbreviate it just to run for office. Are you serious about that?
Well, I was serious about it. When I was 12 years old, I thought that I was going to be an actor, go into politics, and teach history. Those were the 3 goals I had and the 3 goals that I have. I am the same person that I was then, just that I'm a little shorter and fatter, I think. But I went to Washington recently, and I had some doings with the Hill. And I don't know now whether my ambitions have to do with electoral politics or whether it has to do with something else. I do know that in some way or other, I want to get involved with politics, even if it's just a question of clearing up semantics and certain words that we use and certain words that we don't understand and deal with, just to clarify what we are acting upon. We always act upon, in politics, certain phrase words and phraseology that we don't really understand. And I would very much like to address myself to that problem and make people at least understand what we're dealing with when we talk about communism or capitalism or the Supreme Court or the separation of powers or whatever.
But do you think that anyone could be elected to office that has appeared in an X-rated movie, for instance?
Well, I can know some people who were elected to politics who did appear in some X-rated movies, but it depends upon what your version of X-rated is. I do know one thing about politics, and that is that if we don't start electing people who start talking sense in any way, whether it's right-wing or left-wing, then we are in for it. And we can kiss this country goodbye.
I think that's true. After the commercial success of Jaws, just to change the subject, why did you next choose to go into an X-rated movie?
I didn't approach it as an X-rated film. I just approached it was a good film. It was a very good script, and I wanted to play that part. It was a part that deals with failure, success, the perception of failure and success, genius, impotence, fear, love, and that's why I wanted to do it. Whether it's a success or failure in terms of the people who see it, I can't, you can never judge. I thought Jaws was going to go into the toilet, but it's made $100 million, so ask me. I'm the greatest prophet.
More of the sexual mind games that people play are next, right after these commercial announcements. You want to stay? Richard Dreyfuss will stay. So we'll see more of him and the sexual mind games right after this when we come back.